In a small town in the United States, a girl named Kaya Graviter grew up in a devout Christian family. Every Sunday, she sat in the church pews, listening to sermons with deep reverence. She read the Bible with great devotion, trying to understand the teachings passed down through generations in her family. However, something within her kept stirring. Since childhood, Kaya had not only accepted the beliefs taught to her, but was also a seeker. Many questions lingered in her mind. Why do we have to pray through an intermediary? Why can't we address God directly? She often asked these questions, but the answers she received never truly satisfied her heart. As she entered her teenage years, her doubts grew stronger. At the age of 16, Kaya began to feel that something was missing in her faith. During every family prayer, they would always express gratitude to Jesus, but Kaya felt more comfortable thanking God directly. That feeling continued to haunt her, making her feel as if she were standing at a crossroads. The year 2011 became a turning point in her life. When she started college, Kaya met several Muslim students. Before that, Islam was a religion she had only known through the media, often filled with negative stigma. She had already believed that Islam was a strange, foreign teaching that contradicted the values she had always held. One day, a friend said to her, "Did you know that Islam and Christianity share the same prophets?" That statement shook her thoughts. Kaya found it strange. How could two religions that seemed so different have something in common? Driven by curiosity, she began to explore Islam more deeply. At first, her intention was not to understand, but to prove that Islam was exactly as portrayed by the media, an irrational religion. She read articles, watched videos, and engaged in discussions with her friends. However, the deeper she delved, the more she discovered things that directly contradicted the prejudices she had always held. One of the most surprising things for her was the Qur'an. Unlike the scriptures of other religions, this holy book of Islam had never changed since it was first revealed. No revisions, no new additions, no different versions. Every letter recited by Muslims today is exactly the same as what Prophet Muhammad taught centuries ago. At the same time, Kaya also discovered that Islam teaches simplicity in worship. There are no intermediaries, no complex concept of the Trinity. A Muslim simply raises their hands and speaks directly to God in their prayers. Kaya's heart began to waver. What she had always considered a strange teaching was actually providing answers to the questions that had haunted her for so long. After months of studying Islam, Kaya could no longer deny it. Her heart had found the truth she had been searching for. She began to feel a peace she had never experienced before. In 2014, after a long journey, Kaya made a life-changing decision. With a trembling heart and tears streaming down her face, she recited the Shahada. As the words left her lips, she felt as if the burden she had carried for so long had disappeared. There was a happiness that words could not describe. She had found her true home in Islam. However, the journey was not over. Her decision to become a Muslim was not easy. Fear lingered in her mind. How would her family react? How would her friends accept this change? For a long time, Kaya chose to hide her Islam. She worshipped in secret, read the Quran in silence, and lived a double life. Until in her final year of college, she grew tired of living in deception. She no longer wanted to hide her identity. One day, gathering all her courage, she decided to wear the hijab. As she stepped outside for the first time with the hijab on her head, her heart pounded. She knew there would be strange looks, perhaps even difficult questions. But most importantly, she had made peace with herself. Her family was, of course, shocked, but over time they began to accept Kaya's decision. Though it was not easy, she remained steadfast in her faith, explaining to them that Islam is a religion that teaches peace, love, and generosity. Today, Kaya Graviter is not only a Muslima, but also a fighter for the truth. She uses her voice as a writer to correct misconceptions about Islam, sharing her story so that more people can understand its true teachings. I used to be someone who didn't care and believed everything the media said because I had never met a Muslim or understood the true essence of Islam, she said. From a girl full of doubts, Kaya has now found unwavering faith. Her journey is proof that the light of truth always finds its way, even in the most unexpected places. Amid the glittering life of Australia, where Islam is often misunderstood and seen as foreign, a young woman named Susan Carlin embarked on a journey she had never imagined before, a journey toward the light of Islam. Susan was born and raised in a non-Muslim family that held a skeptical view of religion, especially Islam. Since childhood, she grew up believing that Islam was a backward religion, full of restrictive rules and irrelevant to modern life. To young Susan, Islam was not something worth considering, let alone embracing. However, fate had other plans. At the age of 19, Susan's life began to change. Her great curiosity led her to study various religions, not because she was seeking the truth, but because she wanted to prove that Islam was indeed, as people said, outdated, harsh, and irrational. She started reading books about Islam, engaging in discussions with different people, and attending academic gatherings that explored world religions. However, the more she delved into it, the more she discovered something surprising. Islam was nothing like what she had always imagined. I felt like I had been slapped by reality, she recalled. Every question I thought would disprove Islam instead turned around and provided logical and beautiful answers. But there was one thing that haunted her mind. How would the people around her react if she chose Islam? Fear began to creep into her. She imagined her family being disappointed, her friends distancing themselves, and society judging her. A great turmoil raged within her. She wanted to deny the truth she had begun to realize, but her inner voice kept whispering, "This is what you've been searching for all along." Until one night, in the silence of her room, Susan made the biggest decision of her life. She recited the Shahada. Tears streamed down her face. She felt a peace she had never experienced before, but she also knew this was just the beginning of a journey full of challenges. Being a Muslim in Australia was not easy, especially for a woman from a non-Muslim background. When news of her decision spread, Susan faced an overwhelming storm. "I lost some friends. They thought I had chosen the wrong path," she said. "Some even asked how an intelligent woman like me could choose a religion that is perceived as oppressing women." However, Susan did not back down. She was confident in her decision and sought to prove that Islam is a religion that honors women, not oppresses them. Her journey in Islam deepened. She not only continued learning, but also began to engage in dawah. She wanted to show the true face of Islam, one of love, mercy, and justice. Year after year passed, and her influence continued to grow. She founded the television program Salam Cafe, a show that introduced Islam to the Australian public in a relaxed and inclusive way. The program became popular and was watched by both Muslims and non-Muslims. Susan also actively spoke at various forums, from churches to Jewish communities, from schools to business organizations. She wanted the world to see Islam from a different perspective, through the eyes of a woman who was once skeptical but had now become a part of Islam. Then, in 2004, Susan Carlin was awarded the title of Australian Muslim of the Year, surpassing many other prominent Muslim figures, including men. She not only received the award, but also won a prize of $2,000. However, without hesitation, she donated the entire amount to various charitable organizations, both Muslim and non-Muslim. "Islam teaches us to give, not just to receive," she said with a warm smile. However, Susan's journey did not stop there. She still had to face a major challenge: the stigma that Islam and terrorism were inseparable. Every time a terrorist attack happens, Muslims around the world are viewed with suspicion, including me, she said. "I have to keep explaining that Islam is not about violence, but about peace." Despite this, she remained steadfast. She knew that the truth did not need to be defended with hatred, but with good character. "I believe that Islam is the true religion," she stated, "and the world needs to realize how beautiful it is to be a Muslim." Today, Susan Carlin is not only an academic and activist, but also an inspiration to many Muslim women in Australia and around the world. From a girl who once doubted Islam to becoming one of the most influential Muslim figures, her story is proof that guidance can come from the most unexpected paths, and that the truth will always find its way, even if it must pass through a storm. May this story inspire us all to strengthen our faith in the beauty of Islam and continue worshiping with sincerity. Ameen, Ya Rabbal Alameen. An American woman named Zan Christ shares her spiritual journey of finding the light of Islam. She is not just an ordinary person. She does not come from a regular family background, but from a lineage of religious leaders. She is the daughter of a pastor in the country. Both her father and mother have pastoral ancestry from Norway and Germany. Her grandfather and great-grandfather were respected religious figures, and her family had long dedicated themselves to spreading Christian teachings. Since childhood, Zan was raised to be the successor of her family in teaching religion. Every Sunday, she stood in front of the congregation, taught Sunday school, and sang hymns with her melodious voice. She grew up with the firm belief that the religion her family followed was the only truth. The church was her second home, and God was the figure she worshipped through prayers and songs. However, as she grew older, more questions began to arise in her mind. If God is one, why is there the concept of the Trinity, which is difficult to understand? If Jesus is God, why does he pray to another God? If human sins have already been redeemed, why are people still punished for their mistakes? These questions continued to haunt her, but whenever she asked her family or church leaders, she always received vague answers. Zan eventually decided to leave her hometown to pursue higher education at a university. She chose to major in world religions, hoping to gain a deeper understanding of the beliefs held by different people. It was here for the first time that she began studying Islam. Initially, she took the class only because it was part of her curriculum, not out of interest. To her, Islam was a foreign religion, full of negative stereotypes she had often heard in Western media. However, over time, the more she studied Islam, the more she discovered something different. Islam emphasizes the absolute oneness of God, without the confusing concept of the Trinity. Islam teaches that every person is responsible for their own deeds without inherited sin. Islam provides rational explanations about life, the afterlife, and the relationship between humans and God. In fact, she was shocked when she read the Qur'an and found verses stating that Jesus is not God, but rather a prophet sent by Allah. A concept that made more sense to her compared to the Trinity she had always believed in. As she continued her studies at the graduate level, Zan interacted more frequently with students from various countries. Some of her friends were Muslims from the Middle East and Africa, including a man from Somalia who had extraordinary character. She noticed that her Muslim friends were very calm, humble, and full of love. They never imposed their beliefs on others, but the way they lived reflected something different, a real sense of peace. One of the conversations that changed her life happened when she asked her friend, "Why are you so sure that Islam is the true religion?" Her friend smiled and answered, "Because Islam is not just a religion, but also a way of life. God is one, neither begotten nor begetting. If you seek the truth, open your heart and ask for guidance from the true God." That answer echoed in her mind. That night, for the first time in her life, Zan prayed directly to God without any intermediary. "Oh God, if Islam is the truth, show me the right path." Days went by, and Zan's heart grew more certain. After a long inner struggle, finally in her second year of studies, Zan Christ decided to recite the Shahada. "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." Tears welled up in her eyes. She felt as though she had been born again, as if she had found something that had been lost in her life for a long time. However, this new journey was not without challenges. When her family found out that Zan had embraced Islam, a great anger erupted. "What have you done, Zan?" her father shouted. "You are the daughter of a pastor. You have betrayed our faith." Her mother cried, while her siblings looked at her with deep disappointment. "Father, I haven't betrayed anyone," Zan said, her voice trembling. "I am just following the truth I have found." But her father could not accept this reality. In a firm voice, he said, "If you stick to your decision, then you are no longer part of this family." That night, Zan left her home with a broken heart. She had lost her family, but she did not lose her faith in the God who had guided her. After embracing Islam, Zan did not stop learning. She deepened her understanding of the religion, learned Arabic, and became active in the Muslim community. Now Zan Christ has become a da'i spreading Islam in America. She frequently gives lectures and speeches at various universities, explaining Islam from a logical and rational perspective. In every lecture, she always strives to correct the misunderstandings about Islam that often arise in the West. She emphasizes that Islam is not a religion of terrorism, not a religion that oppresses, but a religion that brings light, peace, and truth to anyone who is willing to open their heart. The story of Zan Christ is proof that guidance can come to anyone. She was born into a family of pastors, grew up in a very religious environment, but when she sought the truth with an open heart, Allah showed her the way. Now she is no longer a Christian religious teacher, but a spreader of the light of Islam. She is no longer someone who questioned God, but someone who has found the true God. May this story inspire us all to deepen our understanding of Islam, to be more diligent in our worship, and to always be grateful for the guidance Allah has granted us. Ameen, O Lord of the worlds. Sarah Bacher, a former model, actress, fitness instructor, and feminist activist, once lived a glamorous life in South Beach, Miami, a place known for its luxury, freedom, and hedonistic lifestyle. Like many other American girls, she was obsessed with beauty, fashion, and how to appear attractive in the public eye. However, beneath all the glitz and glamour surrounding her, Bacher began to feel an indescribable emptiness. She felt like a prisoner of the beauty standards created by the fashion and entertainment industry. Every day she had to ensure she looked perfect, followed the latest trends, and maintained the image that many women admired. However, the more she tried to meet those standards, the more trapped she felt. Eventually, Bacher began searching for the meaning of life beyond the glamorous world that had confined her. Her search led her to various spiritual practices, meditation, and the exploration of different religions. However, the biggest turning point in her life came after the events of September 11th, 2001. The world was suddenly filled with discussions about Islam, and unfortunately, most of what she heard were negative stereotypes. As a feminist and activist, Bacher felt compelled to learn more about Islam, rather than simply accepting the narrative portrayed by the media. A chance moment changed everything. She came across the Holy Qur'an, something she had always seen as foreign and even dangerous to many in the West. At first, she was only drawn to its physical appearance, but as soon as she began reading it, her heart was deeply moved. Unlike any other text she had ever read, the Quran spoke directly to her soul. She felt as if it had been written specifically for her, providing answers to the questions that had long haunted her. Her spiritual journey did not stop there. Bacher eventually decided to embrace Islam, finding the peace she had been searching for. She recited the Shahada and began living as a Muslim woman. Shortly after, she married a Muslim man who supported her new path. One of the biggest steps she took after becoming a Muslim woman was wearing the hijab. That day was a historic moment for her. She bought a graceful long dress and a headscarf, then walked through the same streets where she had once strolled in revealing clothing, bikinis, shorts, or fashionable work attire. But this time she felt different. For the first time, she truly felt like a free woman. Bakar's journey to Islam did not stop at the hijab. She began considering wearing the niqab, face veil. At first, she asked her husband whether it was obligatory in Islam, and he explained that niqab was not a requirement. However, a year and a half later, Bakar felt that wearing the niqab was a calling from her heart. She wanted to do it for the sake of Allah and for her own inner peace. When she finally wore the niqab, the outside world's reactions were mixed. The media buzzed with debates about the face veil, with many politicians and human rights activists labeling it as a form of oppression against women. However, for Bakar, such accusations were pure hypocrisy. She observed how the world loudly defended women's rights to dress minimally and freely, but denied their right to cover themselves if they chose to. She felt that true feminism should grant women the freedom to choose, not just the kind of freedom defined by Western culture. "I remain a feminist," Bakar said, "but a Muslim feminist who calls on other Muslim women to fulfill their responsibilities as wives, mothers, and individuals with values. I want to see Muslim women strong in their faith, raising their children to be righteous Muslims and spreading goodness in the world." Currently, Sarah Bakar is active as the communications director at the March for Justice, the assistant founder of the Global Sisters Network, and a producer at the same organization. She continues to advocate for the rights of Muslim women, inspiring many women, both those who have been Muslim for a long time and those who are new to Islam. For her, wearing the hijab and niqab is not a symbol of backwardness, but rather a symbol of true freedom, the freedom to choose who she is without external pressures.